It's got to get the attention of the committee chair to even be heard and discussed. The committee can recommend adoption of the legislation to the full body, or they can recommend it with changes, or they can recommend that it not be adopted. So each committee is a major step. It gets through committees, again goes back to, in this case, the Speaker of the House. And it's got to get his attention again, because you also remember that there's hundreds of bills going through on each legislative session. And not all of them get through each step, not all of them get heard, not all of them get voted on. So you need to get that, get the attention at each step along the way. Eventually, if it gets through all that, it gets voted on. If it gets passed in the one house, it has to get passed in the other house. By the time it gets there, it can be two, somewhat different bills. So then they have to be reconciled. If they can't be reconciled, it'll go back again for reprocessing and revoting. If it does get reconciled, it'll either, if it's minor issues, it can go right on to the governor. If not, it may have to go back to the houses to be voted on again. And in the end, it finally has to go to the governor's office. The governor can sign it into law. He can not sign it, and it can become law. Or he can veto it. If he vetoes a law, it takes 2/3 vote in both houses to pass it. So how do you get through all that? You need help, and the help is a lobbyist. What does a lobbyist do for us? They're going to start out with reconnaissance. They're going to help us flush out any opposition. I think Tom had talked about some potential sources of that. They're also going to build support. They're going to find out, okay, you have an issue, you have a concern. How do we fix that? How do we work with you? They're going to work on it. They're going to strategize how to best package that to get it through the legislature. One of the lobbyists we had talked about. We talked about doing a separate bill to make these changes, but then there was also a possibility that maybe it just becomes an amendment to the code legislation that goes through on a regular basis. So there's different ways possibly to get it. You possibly work both angles at the same time, so that's one of the things a lobbyist would do. The lobbyist will also help identify the best sponsors and help us secure those. The senators can introduce as many bills as they want, but each representative in the House of Representatives is only allowed 6 bills per session. So one of the things you got to get in early before they commit themselves to other bills. They'll advise and guide FSCA along the way. They'll tell us the things that we need to be doing, once we get into the process. We're going to talk about that a little bit further later on here, but almost everybody will probably be involved in helping that out in that endeavor. They'll also help us make some strategic political contributions. As I mentioned, the committees are a stumbling block. They'll work to help limit the committee referrals. Then they'll lobby to get the bill heard and passed through each of the committees. They'll represent us at these committees, speak our cause and our slide changed on. Sorry. And they'll do the same with state agencies, say the Board of Professional Engineers, and other associations. They'll also help draft the legislation and possible amendments to it, or using this as an amendment to other legislation. They'll defend against amendments. Amendments can be real killers on bills. And for every bill, there's many representatives and people lobbying to get amendments stuck on there that they want that may have nothing to do with it, and sometimes they can help kill a bill. So they'll work to defend against that. As I said, after they come out of the committees, they'll lobby to get it heard and voted on by the full body. And if it gets through all that, they'll lobby the governor's office to see that it gets passed there. So this is the bad news. What does it cost? We talked to some lobbyists this past year. We got fees from them. Our top picks were generally around $60,000. There may be some scenarios where that could be less, but that's the general fee, and that's our general target. I added a couple thousand for inflation this year, just to be sure. There will be some expenses also. The lobbyists will have a few pass-through expenses, and also those strategic political contributions that I talked about. FSEA will also have some expenses, some traveling, expenses for our executive director, PayPal expenses, things like that. And for target purposes, I added a couple $1,000s for contingency. That all adds up to $80,000, so a lot of money. However, due to our efforts so far, we've already collected $33,000, so we have a good start. That's about 40% of the way. So we still got about $47,000 that we would like to collect. And our target date is June 1st, because as I mentioned, we want to get in early to get those good sponsors. So we really need to be ready to pull the trigger somewhere around June.
Doug, if I could add something that was really kind of fun for me to watch. When I was up in Jacksonville, I told the guys, let's throw the gauntlet down. Let's offer to throw $2,000 in from our chapter to the kitty when we first got this thing kicked off. And I did that hoping other chapters would follow suit. And I got to commend you guys. You guys said, no, you don't know what stepping up is all about. We're throwing $10,000 in. So I want to tell you, that was just a huge gift that you guys contributed to this thing to start as a chapter. And we wouldn't be even close to moving along the way if it hadn't been for you guys doing the things that you did. And quickly, everybody heard about that, and then the other chapters followed suit. Certainly not at the level you guys were able to, but from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you guys for that.
You're welcome, and the board's vote on that was unanimous. So, we're going to ask you to do some things to make this happen. The main thing, we need your money. Whatever you can contribute will be appreciated. And we have two easy ways to do it, by check or PayPal. I'll put that information up later, and you'll hear about that later as well. I know you've all been asked before, and I think you're going to get another letter asking about it real soon. So please open your checkbooks and make a contribution. Fortunately, these contributions are not tax deductible. Just remember that. What else you're going to need to do? You're going to need to help get others to donate. Very convincing guy there, right? One of the things, again, as we go on here, we're going to ask you to help identify structural engineers who aren't members of FSEA, bring them into the fold, and let's get their donations as well. So and there's a lot of people out there, a lot of engineers out there who aren't members, and it's a big group, and we need to get in touch with them. So we're going to help that. We're going to ask you to help identify who those are. The other thing is we want to get firm leaders involved. They're the ones, again, holding some purse strings here. Some of you probably are firm leaders, and if not, you certainly have access to them. You can start with your own firms. But again, we're going to ask people to help identify the firms out there and who their leaders are, so we can make sure that, that we get in touch with them. Each of the chapters is probably also going to do some fundraising, hopefully some just fun events or activities or whatever it is that they come up with. So when that happens, hopefully you'll participate in that. And after we get into the process here, probably into the summer and early fall, we'll probably start asking you to also step up and contact and meet with your state representatives and your state senators to help us get the word out to them. So here's the information where you can donate by check payable to the Florida Structural Engineers Association Licensure Fund. So write small when you start on there.
And FSCA licensure fund.
Okay, that's better.
And address FSCA Executive Director, 287 West Road, number 20. Is that Ocoee? Is that how you pronounce that? Florida, 34761. Or by PayPal, if you go to the FSCA website, which is FLSEA, and there's a button there called Licensure Fund Contribution. Just click on that and you'll go right to a PayPal page, and be very convenient. So that's all we have. And if anybody has questions, I'm sure Tom will entertain. Anybody?
Can we get a PDF copy of this? That way we just have, you know, highlights when we go to lobby our bosses and friends and whoever.
Yeah, another thing, there's already a lot of information already on the FLSEA website. If you go to the SE Licensure tab, you'll find a number of links and downloads there, which has a lot of information. I can certainly make this available. You'll get this donation letter pretty soon too, which can be passed on to any structural engineer. So yeah, whatever you need, let us know.
You need to raise, what is it, $47,000?
47.
Okay. So each one of you took it upon yourselves to say, I'm going to raise $1,500 somewhere. And some of that comes from the person who checked you out, some of it comes from talking to a boss, some of it comes from talking to 3 people who weren't here today. If you made it your mission in life to do it, it can make a difference. If everybody in FSCA would contribute $200, you'd get there.